What's poppin', y'all? I just wanted to do a quick review, not on the music in particular, but just on what I believe to be one of the most flash in the pan, instantly forgotten about albums of the year for an artist where that should not be the case whatsoever. And that's Lil Uzi Vert with EA2. In the lead up to EA2, we've seen Lil Uzi Vert do, really when it came to promotion, it was a really cool promotional video. That video that he did in New York, where it's like, oh, this UFO's landing. It got a lot of attention. It was, I wouldn't say like brand new. Nobody had ever done something like that, but it was fresh. There was a level of creativity and effort, and it went along with the brand well. Similar to how in the original Eternal Atake, he had that video that was more so kind of animated special effects, except this time he just transitioned it to in real life in New York City, where Uzi Vert has been known to spend a lot of time. I think he even lives in New York. He's originally from Philly, but he's lived in New York more than he's even spent time in LA or anywhere else. So leading up to this album, the last project was Pink Tape, which did about, like, what was it, 100K or something like that first week. Pink Tape was anticipated for a while, but it was an interim album. The album that most people have been waiting for is none other than, of course, Love is Rage 3. Love is Rage was the original project that got me into Uzi in 2015. I remember when it first dropped. That just got me invested. I was listening to Uzi. I listened to every single Uzi project after that. The thing is, with Uzi, unlike many others, I didn't think Pink Tape was bad. I actually enjoyed Pink Tape. I thought it was solid, and it did I think it did well over 100K. It did like 150, 160K, something like that, which are solid numbers, especially bearing in mind that this wasn't some sort of follow-up to any other project. It wasn't Love is Rage 3 hype, and Uzi was a little bit more active in the lead up to this. But prior to Pink Tape was EA, which was his most commercially successful project ever. He had the first album and the deluxe, which was partially supposed to be the original, but some leaks happened. And in the aftermath of EA2, most recently, Uzi Vert talks about how he regrets not just releasing the original Eternal Atake and caring too much about the fact that it was leaked. He felt like he should have just released the leaked songs. But when it came to Eternal Atake 2 actually dropping, first week it did 60K, which is very good for the majority of artists. Let's not mince words here, and let's also not do the thing that everybody else is doing, which is trying to compare sales from 5 years ago, generally speaking, not for specific artists, but what numbers people were doing 5 years ago and comparing them to now and holding them to the same standard. 100K now is no joke. That's hell, I would say 250K a couple of years ago. And the thing is, not only were there bundles, but people were cheating the sales beyond belief. And this is why I think there needs to be streaming metrics dropped more in terms of like, hey, this album was streamed 100 million times this week in the US, because keep in mind, only US streams and purchases count for the sales numbers that we look at. And a lot of these artists have big fan bases, in particular Europe, but other places in the world too. But the majority would be Europe and UK, predominantly after America. And of course, Canada and South Africa and Australia. I would say those markets as well. Like a lot of South Africans. I see my analytics. So shout out to all my South Africans out there. With that being said, this did 60K, which for Lil Uzi Vert is not good. For another artist, like Tekka does 60K. It's like, whoa, that's astronomical numbers. And that's not to say that, you know, Tekka's a flop or anything, which I kind of do want to talk about his project probably very soon. Don't hold me to that though, because I know sometimes I just say something in passing and people are like, yo, are you going to do a video on that? I didn't promise it. I just said I may or may not do that. But with EA2, I wanted to see the second week drop off. That's partially why I've been waiting. And wow, that thing really tanked. I mean, it's a 70% drop. 18.6K after doing 60K first week, which was already pretty disappointing. And comparing this to Chromacopia, right, which is Tyler, the Creator's project. And I do want to talk about Tyler, the Creator's project, because I feel like he's somebody that gets excuses that other people don't get. But he had a 35% drop. So he did around 200 and something thousand. And then now he's doing, and then he did 160. And then I think he he did 100K. So that's like 3 weeks, 35% drop from second week to third week, and he's still holding the number one position. So that's an example of an album that people are still streaming and buying. It's a solid mix. I would say there are 3 times or 2.5 times as many streaming equivalent albums as there are those that were purchased via whatever product he's selling. So with Uzi, I wonder how the commercial performance of this album is going to change his plans post-album. Because if you guys remember, I've been talking about this for years, the last tour that Lil Uzi Vert headlined, his own tour, was like Love Is Rage 2. There was no EA tour. There was supposed to be an EA tour, but if you keep in mind, once he dropped EA, immediately everything got locked down, or things had just gotten locked down. So he didn't go on tour for EA. He didn't go on tour for Pink Tape. He's been doing shows here and there, but then EA2 isn't doing as well as maybe he had hoped or other people had hoped. So is he going to go on an EA2 tour? I don't think so. And I don't know. There hasn't been announced yet from what I've seen. So this will delay Uzi going on tour even longer. Probably not until he releases Love Is Rage 3. And then we don't know how this is going to impact him making the music. So will he scrap a lot of the music that he's already been working on for Love Is Rage 3? Does he know what direction to go in? And we can't help but compare what Uzi's been doing to Playboi Carti, who has really, at this point in time, Playboi Carti left Lil Uzi Vert in the dust when it comes to relevance, anticipation. I wouldn't say music quality, because Uzi Vert, like I said, I haven't listened to EA2 yet to completion. I've listened to songs here and there, so I can't judge that. But pre-EA2, I enjoy every single Uzi project. There are certain Playboi Carti, projects, I guess you could say, that I'm not too fond of. Self-Titled is still my favorite. Whole Lotta Red, it's really, like, I've started hearing some songs from it again. Like, I've listened to that album multiple times, and it's all right. It's not as bad as I said it was the year that it came out. And I do like the songs that Playboi Carti has been releasing in the past year. However, keep in mind that the anticipation that Playboi Carti has been building up for this next album is 4 years in the making. He dropped Whole Lotta Red in 2024 Christmas or 2020 Christmas. It's about to be 4 years, and the hype is at an all-time high. Whereas with Uzi, there's a lot of hype for Love Is Rage 3, but it feels like there's a lot less confidence and forcing people to like the music. It's almost like Carti, he was shaken up a little bit at the reception at the onset of Whole Lotta Red, but he didn't let that shake him up too much. So after the first 2 weeks, it seemed like he might release a deluxe with a lot of leaked songs, but he didn't do that. He just let it sit. He ended up touring off of that album. People loved it, and then he became known as this amazing performer, which that's what he's known for by his fans. To other people, questionable. Me being other people. But that's neither here nor there, and that's not important because it's what he's perceived as. And they've got a fan base that overlaps, strong overlap in their fan base. So with Uzi, I don't think Uzi needs to try to be more like Carti because that takes away from who Uzi is. Carti's always been like this. Now, the branding and the type of character that he puts on per album release, that's different, but it's consistent in the fact that, hey, he embodies whatever project he's working on, which I have a lot of respect for. With Uzi feels more like a person than an actual, I don't know what Carti is. Like this character more so than an individual. Like, we don't know who the hell Jordan Carter is, and I don't think many people even care. I don't think Carti fans care who Jordan Carter is. They just mess with Carti, which is cool actually, because it leaves the separation between the artist and his actual personal life. With Uzi, I think maybe he hasn't had a hit song. Keep in mind that he didn't have a hit song for Pink Tape either, but Uzi and Carti both have been project-based artists versus singles-based artists, or needing a single for a project to do well. So we can't blame it on him not having a hit. I just genuinely think there wasn't enough musical anticipation for this. Like, keep in mind, Carti's released some songs. We don't know if they're going to be on the album or not, and he's released songs that people mess with heavy. With Uzi, that hasn't been the case. Like, we'll see Uzi frequently, and he'll take these long breaks, and then we'll see these gimmicky moments, I guess, where he's at Rolling Loud wearing a Birkin bag and just being beyond zesty. At that point, it's even beyond fruity. He's just straight up, like pixie dust on him at that point. And it's this once, it just happens one time. Whereas with Carti, like, he's not going that zesty, although it's relatively close. He's got those like fishnet shirts on or whatever, but with Carti, he's consistent with it. With Uzi, it's kind of like, oh, this thing happens once, a bunch of people talk about it, it fades, it happens again. So it's not like Uzi's walking around with a Birkin everywhere. And he's in this relationship, which I don't think is hindering him whatsoever in terms of the perception. Because if you guys remember certain artists, Meek Mill, he was hurt by the Nicki Minaj relationship because it seemed like he was just an accessory to her. I would say potentially even A$AP Rocky as a musician, as a rapper, to A$AP Rocky listeners and fans. So me being one of A$AP Rocky's listeners from damn near day one, I look at it like, yo, what's going on? Rocky, you are not the main character, and there isn't this degree of separation. It's not like, oh, there's Rihanna doing her own thing, you guys doing your own thing, and then every now and then you're together. With Uzi and JT, there is that separation. They've each got their own careers. It doesn't feel like Uzi's sacrificing anything to be with her, and it doesn't feel like she's using Uzi to prop herself up. So I don't think that relationship is harming any of them. Would I say it's helping Uzi? No. But I just think it's a factor that should be completely ignored when it comes to judging what Uzi is doing right now and what he should do in the future. Love is Rage 3, I think the fact that this project doesn't have too much, I would guess like the legs got cut from underneath it. Love is Rage 3 will have even higher anticipation because of the brand name, but that means Lil Uzi Vert has to hit it out of the park. And I think that relies on more experimentation. Usually with Uzi, we see a lot of breaks between music, and I think he's more apprehensive about releasing than Cardi. Like Cardi will quote unquote leak a song, which is just like drop it on YouTube really with its own video, and we don't know whether it's going to be on the project or not. And I think that's his way of temperature checking what people are messing with, especially his fans, and what they're not messing with. With Uzi, that's something I could see him doing, and it would benefit him as well as the fans because he gets more real-time feedback versus recording for a year and a half without really releasing much music in between and just having this isolated approach compared to the fans, right? Like he's got people around him, but how many of those people are going to give you real feedback that you want to hear from your audience? And that's where I'm looking at. Like obviously, like, Uzi is one of those acts that can't fall off. It's like saying Kodak Black falls off or 21 Savage falls off. Like these guys are just cemented, and Uzi has dropped enough great projects for me for a lifetime. He's just somebody that is still young, despite him saying like 25 was old when he was like 21 or 22 or something like that. I just want to see him live up to the expectations he has for himself, which I know he definitely sees himself highly, and I do want to see an Uzi tour. Will I go to any other shows? Probably unlikely. There's got to be a bunch of things that come together for me to show up to something like that. Although, if there's like seated seats, I would probably go because I've never seen Uzi perform, and it would be something new. So that's another element that Cardi has beat Uzi in, I would say, experience. Cardi's already done like a mini, what's the venues that are smaller than arenas? I forgot the name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. He did do some arenas, but they were just floors for some of them, not the whole place. So he has that experience that Uzi does not yet. And that's something that Uzi fans have for sure been waiting on. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled and see what happens there. But I don't think, if I had to guess, I do not think there will be a tour until the next project or album. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.